Train number 38 from Gorky brought Andrei Sakharov back from orderly exile to the swirling uncertainties of Moscow.
Sakharov's release at the end of Gorbachev's second year in power seemed to cast aside the stamp of Stalin for all but ceremonial occasions. But the old order marched on, and not just in the armed forces. Stalin's insidious legacy stifled initiative throughout Soviet life. So in his speech marking the 70th anniversary of the first Russian Revolution, Gorbachev turned on Stalin. The current General Secretary publicly called his most famous predecessor a criminal. Journalists and radicals were quick to join in. They attacked not only Stalin's crimes, but what he had created, a servile and fear-ridden Soviet people. For Ligachev and the communist Puritans, this was going too far. Stalin's excesses could be condemned, but the Soviet people were sacrosanct.
There was an article by Georgy Kunitsyn called "Has the Time Come?" The article argued that 70 years of communism had turned the Soviet people into a nation of slaves and serfs. That's what he thought of the people.
I totally reject that. Kunitsyn's article and many others that slander to say that our people are serfs and paupers.
Ligachev called Gorbachev about this article. It was a very rough conversation. It was 8 p.m. I went into his office, and Ligachev was in a real state. He said, "I can't agree with that, because to agree with that would mean canceling out my whole previous life. Everything would turn to dust. I cannot accept that."
We opened the way for people to throw dirt over our entire history.
It tossed away the work of generations. It was a tragedy for many people. It really was.
A new line had emerged. Gorbachev's Glasnost had become the official party line. It drove a wedge between Ligachev and Gorbachev, once the closest of comrades. Now Ligachev was leading the conservative camp in the party, fighting for the old ways. Each camp had its newspapers. Some members of the editorial board of the daily Sovietskaya Rossiya became worried by the line taken by their editor, Valentin Chikin.
It
all started when Ligachev became the second secretary, the second figure in the party, when he began to monitor our ideology. There was a direct link between Chikin and Ligachev. Whenever Ligachev wanted some event interpreted his way, Chikin would appear and would bring in either a short article or a story, or set a task with an anti-perestroika slant.
Nina Andreeva, an obscure party member, provided Chikin with just what he was looking for. Out of the blue, she sent in an angry article.
I can neither accept nor agree with a great deal that has appeared. All this talk about our people's political servility, spiritual slavery. Naturally, as a teacher working with young people, I'm interested in the education of youngsters. For example, what can young people gain from revelations about Stalin's guilt? Stalin brought our country to the ranks of great world powers. There had been a lot of articles which are offensive towards those people who stood up for our freedom and independence in World War II. The champions of left-wing liberal socialism are falsifying our history. They try to make us believe that the country's past was nothing but mistakes and crimes.
Ligachev and Chikin used this tirade against Glasnost to mount nothing less than a conspiracy against Gorbachev himself. Chikin kept the article secret from the editorial board of Sovietskaya Rossiya until the time was right.
It was Saturday, not a normal working day. I remember we met at noon.
Chikin announced that one of the pages would be replaced with a special feature. Well, when I read it, my hair stood on end. I went around to the deputy editor saying we must drop this article. But they replied, how can the editorial board disagree with it when Ligachev has read it and agrees with it?
I believe that Nina Andreeva's article was a reaction to the recent campaign to blacken our history.
Look, I even kept the proof page. The title was, I Cannot Betray My Principles.
I took the title from Gorbachev's ideological Pelham speech in February in 1988, where he said, we should not betray our principles.
Nina Andreeva's article was published on Sunday, March 13th, 1988. It caught the guardians of Glasnost unaware.
First, I just glanced through it. Then I took a closer look. The further I got, I began to realize that this was not an ordinary article. It was some sort of manifesto.